friends. Today I'm going to read to you Charlotte's Web, Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is called A Talk at Home. On Sunday morning, Mr. and Mrs. Arble and Fern were sitting at breakfast in the kitchen. Avery had finished and was upstairs looking for his slingshot. "Did you know that Uncle Homer's goslings had hatched?" said Fern. "How many?" asked Mr. Arble. "7," replied Fern. "There were 8 eggs, but 1 egg didn't hatch, and the goose told Templeton she didn't want it anymore, so he took it away." "The goose did what?" said Mrs. Arble, gazing at her daughter in a queer, worried look. "Told Templeton she didn't want the egg anymore," replied Fern. "Well, who's Templeton?" said Mrs. Arble. "Oh, he's the rat," replied Fern. "None of us like him much." "Who's us?" said Mr. Arble. "Oh, everybody in the barn cellar. Wilbur and the sheep and the lambs and the goose and the gander and the goslings and Charlotte and me." "Charlotte?" said Mrs. Arble. "Who's Charlotte?" "Well, she's Wilbur's best friend, and she's terribly clever." "What does she look like?" said Mrs. Arble. "Well," said Fern thoughtfully, "she has 8 legs. I guess all spiders do." "Charlotte is a spider?" said Fern's mother. Fern nodded. "A big gray one. She has a web across the top of Wilbur's doorway. She catches flies and sucks their blood. Wilbur adores her." "Does he really?" said Mrs. Arble rather vaguely. She was sitting and staring at Fern with a worried expression on her face. "Oh yes, Wilbur adores Charlotte," said Fern. "Do you know what Charlotte said when the goslings had hatched?" "Well, I haven't the faintest idea," said Mrs. Arble. "Tell us." "Well, when the first gosling stuck his little head out from under the goose, I was sitting on my stool in the corner, and Charlotte was on her web. She made a speech. She said, 'I am sure that every one of us here in the barn cellar would be gratified to learn that after 4 weeks of unremitting effort and patience on the part of the goose, she now has something to show for it.' Don't you think that was a pleasant thing for her to say?" "Well, yes, I do," said Mrs. Arble. "And now, Fern, it's time to get ready for Sunday school, and tell Avery to get ready. And this afternoon you can tell me more about what goes on in Uncle Homer's barn. Aren't you spending quite a lot of time there? You go there almost every afternoon, don't you?" "I like it there," replied Fern. She wiped her mouth and ran upstairs. After she left the room, Mr. Arble spoke in a low voice to her husband. "I worry about Fern," she said. "Did you hear the way she rambled on about animals pretending they talked?" Mr. Arble chuckled. "Well, maybe they do talk," he said. "I've sometimes wondered. At any rate, don't worry about Fern. She's just got a lively imagination. Kids think they hear all sorts of things." "Just the same, I do worry about her," said Mrs. Arble. "I think I shall ask Dr. Dorian about her the next time I see him. He loves Fern almost as much as we do, and I want him to know how queerly she's acting about that pig and everything." "I don't think that's normal. You know perfectly well animals don't talk." Mr. Arble grinned. "Maybe our ears aren't as sharp as Fern's," he said. The end.